And we are live. Well, we got an echo. Hold on. I can fix this. There we go. No more echo. Welcome to Vlog Thursday number 270. Really? Really? It's been that many? Why does this do this? Hold on. Let's figure things out. There we go. So I can put the comments here and put the comments here. All right. You know, if someone were to say, what do you do all day, Tom? Like, we want to know a day in the life. So much of the day in the life would be you watching me read. You know, there's not really a good live stream, so to speak, that I could make where, what do you do all day? Phone calls, meetings, consulting meetings, talk to employees, read. Somewhere that's a big cycle. I spend a lot of time. I don't joke when I say read the fine manual. That is very much something I spend some time doing. So, absolutely. Tom, now that you have a home studio, you know they make rack-mounted mini fridges for your beer. I have a normal fridge, and I am perfectly fine with. So, yes. Also, tell your son you're doing a poll on YouTube for what toppings go into pizza. Good. Maybe. Do they include pineapple? Is pineapple on your poll? Pineapple jalapeno pizzas are good. Let's see. We have a good evening. Well, it's good afternoon for me, but good evening probably wherever you are. Time zones are fun like that. Actually, let me close this. All right. Let me make sure. Is this phone? I'm actually not going to turn my phone off. I need it in case of emergencies. I have a lot of things going on right now. All good things, though. I never am sure what to fill this beginning part up with because inevitably about 10 minutes in, it seems to take for everyone to, well, when it peaks, so to speak, it takes this few minutes of ramp up. And then the next question is what I miss. Well, nothing. I'm just babbling the first few minutes. I want to stay engaging, so I'm not actually just going to babble. I want to say something interesting. But, you know, there's still a ramp up before I start diving into things, of course. It is currently 3 p.m. I am in the greater Detroit area. I do. So here's a fun babble I'll do real quick. I am in the Eastern time zone. So that's to answer your question directly. But if you're from Detroit and you live in this area, I don't say I'm from Detroit, but the majority of people live far outside of this area. So I will say I'm from Detroit, but there's a weird, like, I don't know, people. So if you are from Detroit proper, you don't appreciate people who live 15 miles outside of Detroit saying Detroit. There's this like, we're in Detroit, you're not really in Detroit type of thing. I'm like, well, it's easy when you're talking to an international audience, which by the way, only 47% of my audience is even inside the United States, which means Detroit has, well, lesser meaning as to geographical location. I know a lot of people know where Detroit is, but it's not something that's thought about as much in a deeper context. So that forum post about IDS firewalls is giving me a bad headache. Yeah, someone's just being a little overly. It's that tweet by John Hammond summed up my feelings on a lot of the enterprise security stuff being oversold and trying to provide false sense of security. And I mean, it's no doubt. Lapsus was making fun of it, and it's just, yeah. I'll pull this up in my forums because it's a discussion. I get the person's points, but they're coming off as, no, open source is bad too much. Like they're pushing too hard on that as a narrative, if you will. I think this button, well, that ain't working. Huh. Okay. Why not? That's weird. All right. Well, that's broken. I don't even know why. And I know what breaks when that happens. I know I have to reboot to fix it. I'm not rebooting in a live stream. And it's a Windows problem. I don't have to root my Linux system. So I can just share the tab. We'll add context this way. So share screen, Chrome tab. And it's just a reference. This is in my forums. And it's people debating. And boy, are they debating. There's a lot of posts in here, by the way, if you want to read through it. And it's someone asking, it starts with a question about site blocking at pfSense. And someone signed up for my forums just so they could basically tell you why open source is insecure and not great. Yeah, but I thought this was it's tongue in cheek, but boy, is it true to some extent here. Actually, how do you click on, that's weird. Does it take me right to John's tweet? Yes, it does. Cool. Actually, let's do this. Open image, a new tab. Share this tab instead. And this is the tongue-in-cheek joke. This is actually from the Lapsus discussion, and which, by the way, they got arrested, in case you want the follow-up to their story. People are getting arrested today regarding all this hacking. Very few. How many companies even check logs? Very few until it has already happened, even the very big ones. And this is just one of those things that is an unfortunate truth of the way the industry works. There's a lot of brokenness in there. Right. I have some friends that would never publicly ever say this because it's their job to manage this, but the blind spots in their security for the enterprise company is crazy. And the more you have a lot of friends who work in cybersecurity, the more you realize there's a lot of stuff that's just broken, and it's unfortunate. And that's why I maybe I have a little bit of a jaded look, but that's what led to that entire debate about everything. So I don't know. That's about it. It's in a nutshell, in a rant. Any way for PSS to load balance UDP backends? Don't think so, by the nature of the way UDP works. I don't think there's anything in PF Sense that does it. So you got the same thing with the Las Vegas and the suburbs too. Similar turf rules of where you can say you're from or where you're not from. Need my water. Yeah, there's I don't know. Like I said, I don't get into debates with stuff like that. So same state as you. You're near Lansing. Awesome. Open source is the best source because we can see how things work. Yes, that's a big factor. That is a big factor, is being able to see how things work. It's been on my to-do list. I only have one UniFi Dream Machine in a lab, and I want to kind of do a security assessment of how it works. Like, I want to really understand it. I haven't looked through how good is their documentation. I have not looked, so I'm not saying they don't have good documentation. I'm asking specifically, is their documentation good? Because I have not looked through the UID documentation. Because I like to really understand how something works. That's an important aspect to me. How does it work? How does it function? How is it handling authentication? Mike, or something changed in the last transition? Strange. Nope, we've never built. We've bought touchscreen computers. You never build them. I mean, they sell. I kind of take that back in a way, because we've bought touchscreen monitors with USBs years ago. It hasn't been anyone requested it in a long time. You can get touchscreen USBs to plug in. So, Believe me, reboot, suppressional rebooter. Yeah. So I don't know, man. Do you think the Starship Enterprise used ZFS? I'm hoping we have advanced beyond that. I don't think ZFS is where we are, the best technology we have. By the time we're floating around in the stars, I'm hoping we have something even better. Oh, Chicago too. So, okay, there's turf rules in every city. Having only lived here in the greater Detroit area, I'm mostly aware of our turf rules. Thank you for your contribution to the community, and greetings from Morocco. All right. How does IT work? That's the correct approach. Yes, I ask this question of all things. This is one of the things I like about open source so much, is I can gain a deeper understanding of how things work. This is why I did these explainer videos. regarding ZFS, for example, because someone asked about it, so it's on top of my mind, and TrueNAS just retweeted it. I understand at a reasonably good level how a lot of these things work, which is why I take the time to explain them to other people, because how they work matters a lot. And it's what, one, drives my interest in that product. And also, I never want to just trust something to say, magic. I don't know what all that code piles are doing over there, but somehow my files must be safe. No, I actually want to understand how ZFS handles the magic, how it handles the integrity of the files, how it handles the cache, how the copy on write file system works. So I did a series of videos explaining it because I've taken the time to learn it. I know other people are interested in this as well. And there's also a lot of partially correct pieces of information you find when you're reading in Reddit. Some people are very correct. Some people get it half right. And I'm like, well, I want to take the time to do this. And this is why TrueNAS also was like retweeting it, is I took the time to read a lot of the details of how it works. Back to the UID comment, I see Cody from Mac Telcom Networks has replied. They have some docs, fairly basic, getting started type of stuff. All right, well, I'm hoping for more. I'm really hoping to have a better understanding, especially if you want to recommend a security product. I want a deep understanding of how the authentication models and everything work on that security product. I was actually in a vendor discussion while I was ranting. A couple of them replied. I belong to some Slack groups where a lot of other IT and MSP professional vendors, a wonderful group of people. But I was in there just kind of ranting about the topic regarding things like the lack of use in the marketplace of FIDO. Why isn't everyone using FIDO? And or is it the question of they don't want to deal with the complexities of the back end of deploying FIDO, so they're just going to rely on an SSO vendor who uses FIDO and tie it to your SSO? These are, good, solid questions for stuff. What's an interesting question is the one I left up here. Who's responsible for pen testing the enterprise? Operations, data, or engineering? Jordy. Jordy's really creative, so I would bet Jordy's a better red teamer. I'm gonna throw it out there. He would slip one up. I would actually put Jordy as being on the red team there for doing the pen testing. Do you have an opinion on OpenSense? I don't use it, so not really. I did a video talking about it. I'm fine with pfSense. I haven't had a reason not to use pfSense. It's been a well-supported, well-documented project, so we've always stayed with pfSense. Have you ever enjoyed any biz leadership books? I should probably make a list of them. I don't have all of them off the top of my head, but yes, I read a lot of books. I don't just read manuals. Occasionally I read actual books, and I don't want to I could try rattle off a few of them. I'm trying to remember, but there's so many of them I've read. I don't know. Maybe I'll make a list. If someone posts that in the forums, I may have actually already posted that in the forums. Let me see if I have a book list. Did I? No. Anyways, if someone asks me the question in the forums, I'm more likely to reply to said question. I obviously have not answered it in my own forums. I know I've talked about it before. It's been a question that's come up. And if I'm in front of there, I can go through my library of books and make the list of the books I've read that I liked. One of my big challenges is the books are a book now. Many books I'm conflating because I read them 10, 20 years ago. So it becomes a conflated, I've read book. And so sometimes I will mix things up. I try to keep notes on things from books, but yes. How hard is it to get an entry-level job based on your experience and what you prefer recommendation who wants to get into the field? Start at a help desk. Everyone's always hiring for the help desk because no one really wants to do the help desk. So it's a great place to get started in the field. It's like your bottom of the barrel, so to speak. You start there, but it gives you a lot of insight into how things work. And if you're good and talented at it, you can move around, get some experience, and level up. But lots of places are hiring for help desk. UX2 Pro release. What's your thoughts? That the bigger of the USX one, if I'm not mistaken. To my knowledge, and Cody or someone can correct me if I'm wrong here, does it add any new features at all? As far as I know, the same software limitations apply to it. Therefore, it's basically a USG with faster processing. Good to hear there's some more documentation on there. Awesome. Running pfSense and shooting at scale VM can't run Proxbox on the hardware. I've never tried it. I don't like running pfSense virtual, but you do you. Hi, Tom. Could you point us in the direction of manage checking hundreds of servers? Should there ever be a manual check, logging remotely, or all centralized RMM tools, gray log? For us, the way we manage the hundreds of servers is with our RMM tool. That's what scales. I've had people say, don't use an RMM tool. You're increasing your risk. And I'm like, okay, tell these businesses to hire IT people internally to manage all this. They go, oh, well, they can't afford that. It would increase the cost of goods of the product they make so much. And I'm like, well, yeah, RMM tool is pretty much the answer for that. I don't know that eventually maybe I'll do a security onion video because that's probably one of the more popular SIM tools there. Hello from Australia, saying upgrade pfSense to pfSense was smooth. Thanks for your video. Awesome. I'm happy your upgrade went well. Does Tailscale work on TrueNAS? Never tried. Have you ever built a router firewall using regular Linux distro? No interest in doing that. I mean, yes, I have. Maybe around 2004, 2000, somewhere around there in the early 2000s. Yes. And eventually that's what led me into not wanting to do that. It's a great exercise in learning. I don't think it's a great, I mean, if you want to do it for yourself, yes, I don't think it's an easy, manageable thing. It's like you're reinventing the wheel when so many good products exist out there. But from a learning experience, I encourage people to do it. From a, hey, I'd like to deploy this at people's places, less good of an idea. Should I install CrowdSec or TrueNAS on my reverse proxy server? I mean, if it's internal and you're not CrowdSec is for publicly exposed things. It's not as much for internal devices. And I hope you don't have your TrueNAS exposed externally. And if you are going to expose it externally, please put CrowdSec in front of it. Hey, Tom, thinking about going to full-time IT consultant. Do you do coaching calls? I will have all my info organized the questions before we meet. Yes, I do. They go to the Hire Us page. We do consulting as well. Actually, a huge part of what we do is we work with a lot of internal IT teams, and sometimes it's even other MSPs and IT professionals for consulting on how to help them with projects. I have two guys out doing something related to that with a local IT person who delegated a project over to us. And so there's a lot of that we dabble in. Best way to start that process is reach out online via the Hire Us form. That puts you in the process by which you can contact us. I don't think it adds any new, pretty much just a more beefy USG. Yeah, okay, that's what I figured. I figured that was the answer. Tailscale, I have a whole video on Tailscale. It's a mesh style VPN, essentially, overlay VPN. Make sure you load balance your Aerocar servers. Upgrade my pfSense CE plus, okay, went smoothly, good. SIM as an open source would be a really good topic. In my company, we're using QRadar. However, I'm looking for a solution in my lab. Pretty much the only big fully complete SIM system out there that's fully open source is going to be Security Onion. I don't know another one that's as capable as that. I'm not saying there's not another one out there. There's always another product out there. But Security Onion, I have set it up. I have used it. It's awesome. Doug Burke and the team that puts it together, big hats off to them. They're awesome. They make a really cool product. But Security Onion is pretty much your go-to. I have a few friends who do QRadar. QRadar is pretty popular. It's an IBM product. For those of you not familiar with it, it is big in the enterprise space and has a big price tag to go with it. Have to upgrade a PF Sense router to ZFS. Does it require a boot image from support? Yes, it does, because you have to reload it. Linus just posted a video with GPU accelerated RAID from NVIDIA called G-RAID. What do you think about this concept? It reduced the RAID calculations almost zero, and the speed was better. Interesting. We'll see if it really turns into a big product. The concept is there. We'll see. I mean, it's going to come down to, I don't imagine if you did some type of GPU offloading, theoretically, there could be some advantages in that, but I don't know. Well, that's kind of we'll see it up. What was I going to talk? I actually had some stuff I was going to talk about today. And it's going to be, what was it? Oh, the hardware stuff. That's one of my topics. Do small companies go bankrupt due to data breach? It's often the lawsuits that come after. The answer is actually way more often than you think. It never makes the news. There's a lot of companies that don't survive a data breach because of fines or something related to that data breach that cost them too much money. Being sued by partners, being sued by, the people they service from losing the data. So yes, it goes almost unnoticed when this happens because they often don't have enough insurance to cover whatever their losses were. It's not like they're sitting on a cash cow frequently. So they go out of business all the time and nobody notices. It's just one of those things. It's not like the news goes, hey, did you know this person with 7 employees that had a business over on this street got breached? 1, too small to make the news. 2, they may not survive it. And they may not survive it not just because of the breach, but if they hit a ransomware event and they can't afford the ransomware and they can't recover their data and they have no way to keep operating forward, at least, in a secure manner, yeah, they can go under. If that data is critical, such as a design company, and we've seen this happen. We've seen design companies that lost all their data. There was one of them, it was actually had nothing to do with cybersecurity, but I knew a design company around here. They lost all their data because of ineptitude in the IT department. And they couldn't survive. All their designs, all their manufacturing plans, the cost was so expensive, they paid it. And they didn't see, I don't know directly if it was related, but they went out of business within 2 years of their major loss of all their data. And it was kind of crazy, but it was a big contributing factor, I think, was them losing all their data, which is the same equivalent to, a breach, essentially, where everything's encrypted. You're a mighty girl. Thank you for all the great content. Have you ever tried WireGuard failover server with Nginx? No, I don't know. I've never tried WireGuard with Nginx. I don't think that works but I could be wrong. I don't know how to implement that. So, my son has decided to hover behind me here. Sorry, I just joined. What do you recommend for 2.5 gig switch for a server rack mount SMB? We pretty much always recommend the UniFi switches for most people. Feels underpowered to use an Atom. Atoms work. They get the job done. They're low power. They're long life. So I think that's why. Dunkel Aura, you got people from Europe saying hello. Is your goal just to hover here?
Yeah.
Or do you want to pull a chair up and actually contribute something?
No, I'm just hovering.
Okay. Yeah, they're saying it must be pizza time.
No.
Well, when some SMB act like a hard drive will bankrupt them and they have security, even though they have kind of no choice to go out of business. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of sorting some of them out. There's no doubt the ones who care about technology and the ones that don't. But yeah. Do you have an understood consequence for your son if he makes a scene during a live stream? I don't know. He knows he would probably be banned from video games. I think that's probably enough. It's probably adequate to say, no video games, no computer, no Elden Ring. So that's been his latest game of choice. So we're gonna go with. I think there's a really good understanding. Do you think used hardware is worth it for an MSP? So let's talk about that. And hey, fully up front, yes, I have an offer code that gets you a discount on this, but we're going to talk about one of the things I wanted to mention today. And we're going to share a screen, Chrome tab. That, yes, I do think that these are worth it. By the way, I have one of these at my office I picked up from them. They got some good deals on these Lenovo PoE switches and stuff. And I have an offer code, so that's why I want to be upfront. I do have an offer code. We do affiliate work with them, but they've become even more important because of the question that John Smith asked. Do you think used hardware is worth it? It's not only worth it. This is what we're running into right now. And people go, hey, I really could use a new server, and Dell has some shipping problems, supply chain delays, and things like that. Well, they have. Look at these PowerEdge 640s in stock over at Tech Supply Direct. And this is becoming a popular choice for a lot of people. And they give you some warranty on this. It's not like you're buying blind. You're buying from a reputable refurbisher who has a lot of options when it comes to, building and choosing the servers here. It's not a bad deal at all. We buy some of these ourselves. I'm really been overall happy with these right here. All storage desktops come with a 30 money-back guarantee, a 1-year limited hardware warranty, large labor from initial purchase date. An optional warranty upgrade agreement may be added at the time of purchase. So you can not only get something used, and honestly, I don't mind buying something that's just a little bit behind if it meets the workload requirements. I mean, I love, and we had a client buy 3 brand new amazing servers. They're awesome. They paid $40,000 for each one, and they are great. But it's not in everybody's budget to do that. I mean, hey, if it's in your budget, go new. But if your budget goes, wow, I could save a few dollars and still meet my project goals, and I'm building it in a virtualization system, and I'm going to buy a pair of these or 3 of them and set up a high availability, or just having 2 of them for redundancy is often enough to go, hey, I'm going to go with something like this. So I'm actually a big fan of it. And the fact that they have these in stock ready to ship, these R640s, we have a couple projects recently we're working on that this was the requirement is, some of these processors in this speed range and this workload. And so I think it's a great deal. Yes. Data center trash, SMB treasure. And this is where there is a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of data centers that absolutely want the cutting edge because it's just where they're at. If you are Facebook, you are one of those places like that. It's at the highest scale. You're making so much money. Money's not an object, but speed is, and the speed at which all of your systems operate. You're like, well, we have more money. We know what to do with. So let's put the newest things in as fast as we can. And therefore, there's an entire secondary market that companies like Tech Supply Direct capitalize on, and it opens up a lot of opportunity. I think they're great. We have enjoyed all the stuff we've got from them, and we've fulfilled client projects. This is where I get getting some of our lab servers. And this is the build it or buy it question. And honestly, there's so much commodity hardware out there like this that buy it is easy. As a matter of fact, we were pricing out what it would cost us to build another server. We were joking about it, and we go, it's just cheaper to go buy this Dell 640. So, yeah, it's one of those things. I would never consider for my clients. My friends almost always use hardware. I just want to be on the hook for supporting used equipment. I don't even find that to be a concern. The Dell stuff is so reliable. It's not even been a concern. Not to mention you can buy the extended warranty with it. But for the most part, when you get a pair of servers on there, I'm willing to even gamble myself and tell them it's warranted myself. And it so far has paid off. We've had none of these fail that we put out in the field. I mean, we've had a power supply go bad, but whatever. I have extra. The Dell's power supplies are so easy to come across. Just buy an extra one when you purchase it. What is your choice for firewall routing and routing for virtual server? I use pfSense, but I'm not big on virtualizing the firewall. That's not really. I just here's my problem. Every time you virtualize the firewall, is oh I have to patch my virtual server. Oh, my firewall's down while I do the patching, or do a reboot, or troubleshoot something on my virtual server. Yes, you can set two of them up, and you can migrate the firewall to the other one. I don't know. I just hardware is not from my perspective. Maybe yours is different. I don't look at the hardware of the firewall being the big cost factor, so I don't virtualize it. So I do for my lab virtualize pfSense because it's convenient. Right now, that's the one thing about buying new servers is you can get so much memory in them for a pretty good price. Data center, SMB, eBay. Yes. If you're just straight up looking for budget equipment, eBay is awesome for that. Glad that you have your hacking problem solved. Have a client with 3 UAP Exxi after the latest firewall upgrade. The Wi-Fi clients keep disconnecting. New devices access denied when connecting. I don't know. That would be a forum post more so. I haven't really run into that. We've had such minor problems, and most of the time, and we do a lot of consulting, but we always find people just do weird configurations, set up things in an unusual way. Almost all of our consulting, when we troubleshoot these problems, I made a joke one time about so much of our consulting is just setting things back to default, and because people have extra parameters they did or restrictions they put on, it's almost like we just run through and look for all those and try to start putting them back to default and see if the problem goes away, and then try to figure out why they applied them, to which the most common answer is, I don't remember doing that. They're like, I started guessing, so I started checking boxes and sliding all the little sliders, and actually, I disabled 2.4 gigahertz and didn't realize that's why no one could connect at 2.4 gigahertz. Server hardware with fresh drives, yeah, that's not uncommon. Even our servers, we did that because I wanted all flash arrays for ours. We bought used servers for when I built our new virtualization, what runs my office. We bought a pair of them, but the drives we bought solid states new, because why not? The price difference was so there wasn't much savings in getting a used solid state, so we got brand new ones. And we got like the nice SaaS ones. As a matter of fact, right now we're debating if we want to. We want to build a different lab now at my office, and we're trying to decide how we want to build an NVMe driven lab for all the virtual stuff that we're doing, because I need it to be faster when I run those Windows updates and stuff. And then you're stuck because you can't download the hotfix for the virtualization host because the firewall is down. Yes. Boy, some people really got burned by that when there was I didn't realize how many people ran pfSense inside of Hyper-V, but one of the pfSense updates had some problem. I don't remember exactly what it is, because I don't run Hyper-V at all, but they had a problem with pfSense and Hyper-V. So when they updated it, it broke some things that made it really difficult, because the firewall is down, for you to figure out how to apply the fix, or some change you had to make to get it working. So I remember some people discussing it, and I think a few people reached out to me, and I'm like, look, I don't do Hyper-V, and I don't run production firewalls in virtualization. So, I mean, I have a staff member that does some Hyper-V consulting. I just don't do it. When I say reaching out, I mean people tagging me in Twitter posts. R720 still going strong. Hey, I still have one of those in my fleet. They work. It's just kind of power hungry. Not only 40 gig, but the 25 gig stuff is really getting inexpensive now. Wendell just did a video on that topic exactly. So yeah, the 25 gig stuff is coming down quite a bit. Building 2 quotes right now for the get the passwords from OSP, or I'm going to get your full stack call. Yeah. You're integrating 2 companies, and will be in Okay, you're integrating 2 companies in 1 building. Okay, I read that wrong. Integrating 2 buildings in 1 company. Somehow I read it backwards. Fun project building server room. Normally use Cisco core switches. Do you have any preference for this kind of switching? Honestly, if the need is there, and even one of the companies that we work with that I mentioned just bought those new servers, they're all 100 gig interconnects with Cisco. It's hard to beat some of that Cisco stuff. I mean, there are places where Cisco is just really solid on that. The price is really solid as well, by the way. So it's up to you which one you want to do. I don't know what your switching or budget is. Cisco does make solid equipment in there. But so do a lot of other companies, especially when you get to the faster routing equipment. I mean, there's other ones you can find in that category. They're just all going to be pretty expensive. I guess the security question is because I'm using WireGuard VPN, is it safe? What's the other question you asked? WireGuard VPN is safe. How's that for the short answer? It's a well-vetted protocol. I don't know of any flaws in WireGuard. What your choice for firewall hardware? Fortinet? I'm partial to the PF Sense equipment, but that's most of what we do. But there are some other ones. We're also an Untangle reseller, and we'll do Untangle, especially for people who have a lot of requirements around, they have to have an endpoint filtering system that's done on the firewall. Untangle is generally our answer for that. Just want to say thanks for the cache video regarding the vlog and so forth. Awesome. PF Sense doesn't have PF Sense doesn't have a 2FA system. You shouldn't be opening the login. So their second factor of authentication is being inside your network. Do I have a go-to VPN client for Macs? I don't really deal with Mac, so not really. I mean, there's software out there for it. We just don't really have any Mac clients. If someone said they wanted us to manage their Mac fleet, we'd say, sorry, we don't do that. So. Oh, no, that's wrong. You can certainly get fired deploying Cisco, especially when it comes to some of the license renewals and things like that. Yeah, there's definitely people who are in trouble for buying Cisco. The license agreements can be really hairy if they're not well done. Do you think UniFi will switch to a subscription-based Wi-Fi? I don't think so. I don't think that's where they're going with it. I just don't feel like UniFi is going to switch to a subscription as a product, as part of their product system. I recommend 2 machines. It's up to you. I don't recommend virtualizing TrueNAS. Not that it can't be done. I've talked about it before, but yeah. So WireGuard does work on Mac OS. Yes. Far as I know, I never used it. Far as I know, it works. Making a firewall for home use. I have an entire video on how to set up your PF Sense firewall for home. I think it's called PF Sense Home Rules. I have a getting started with PF Sense if you don't know what PF Sense is. If you get a new client customer that is set up, do you replace everything and keep the device? If you keep the device, if it goes bad, replace it. Preferred. Yeah, we usually wait till it ages out or goes bad and we replace it. I mean, we have people with a variety of switches and things like that. We took on a client that had a Meraki network and they didn't want to renew the subscriptions, but the subscriptions were prepaid for another year and a half. We're like, well, we'll address that in a year and a half. That's as easy it is to me. It's not like it's hard, and the nature of what we're doing is focusing on the endpoint. So yeah, we had no problem like managing their Meraki, and we had access to the dashboard. We can control and see things. It's really not a big deal. Unless the equipment is faulty, end of life, or just plain out insecure and unpatchable, we'll keep their equipment. How many 10 gig interfaces do you bond on your host? 0. I don't have any bonded ones on mine. WireGuard is great, and I'm using my Android VPS servers. Yes, it works. It works well. I really like WireGuard a lot. The problem with WireGuard, and I've ranted about this before, to which people they definitely don't like this rant, but I'm like, it doesn't have WireGuard is a protocol, not a framework for authentication. And that's why it's not necessarily something we're going to see used without more software being added to it in the, even the SMB market. It's not like WireGuard is a solution for all the SMB problems. It's a great site-to-site solution for 2 sites I need to connect. It's not a great solution to manage a bunch of end users because it doesn't have a normal authentication model like OpenVPN. A frequent use case is going to be for OpenVPN, where we have it tied to their Active Directory server or a Radius server or some type of, federated authentication system that they log into. That way they can go, hey, here's my username, my password, and manage access. Managing access with WireGuard is a lot different. I mean, there's third-party tools like Tailscale that use WireGuard as their underlying protocol, but have a front-end protocol, front-end interface to manage it. So it's a nice tool, but it's not the solution for all VPN issues at all. Is DDNS safe with pfSense and no IP? Sure. I don't see why not. Do you sell web protection on endpoints? Yes, we do. Yep, we focus a lot on the endpoint protection. This was a frequent discussion that we've had in the different forums I belong to about how you handle that. This was the first thing I alluded to when I started the stream, where people were talking about the arguments people have about, oh, you just need a firewall to protect it all. But as the web has become more encrypted, the firewalls are more blind than they used to be, not to mention just some of the challenges of, watching communications go back and forth at scale and deciphering those communications and understanding whether or not they're actual threats versus, just normal traffic passing through. It's one of the reasons with endpoint protection, you want to get right to the endpoint. That's where all the bad things begin and end, essentially. So this is actually where we were at an advantage over people who didn't think this way. Since work to home, I think it makes sense for individual focus on endpoint protection as well. Yes, people taking their stuff at home was just a shift of taking the device home for us. When you're monitoring the endpoint very tightly, you taking it home didn't matter. Oh, cool, they have it at home. I still have the same RMM tool on it and web filtering, and all those same tools apply even when it's not in their office. And this is where the work from home, and it ain't changing. We've pretty much where if you're going through and looking at things, I don't think people are going back to work in the buildings. Don't feel it. I don't think anyone's surprised by that statement at all. Yeah. It's just not where people are going, so we're going to continue doing it the way we do it. Do you have a tutorial tied to OpenVPN and Radius server? Yes, you can assign separate IPs. If you type in like OpenVPN Radius in my channel, you'll find the video. You're using are you all using default LAN as LAN? What if you want every network to be a VLAN, what do you do with the default LAN? Nothing. Set all your VLANs. Then don't use the default LAN. There's nothing forcing you to use it. You can put everything in a VLAN if it makes you happy. Any plan to make a video on tuning start rules, like a deep dive? It's the same as tuning Suricata rules, which, yes, I did a deep dive and have a video on it. Which, by the way, take the rule, take the error message, right-click and highlight it. Well, no, highlight it and then right-click, I should say, and say search with Google. That's how you'll learn so many of the rules. Like, that's the easiest tool to learn. I don't know what this rule does. Is someone attacking me? Probably not. Probably it's just internet noise. Probably it's a false positive. All those things are very likely. go look at what it is, read into the rules. You can literally just search the rule error message, the response message from the rule, and figure out whether or not it's something that's, you got to assess your everything in your system and add that context to it, and then you can make a decision. Do you self-manage endpoint detection and response systems through yourself or Huntress Sentinel-1? It's a combination of it. So we're using Huntress and Sentinel-1, and it's us managing it and them managing it. So because they have active monitoring on it as well. Hey, Michael Moore asked the question I just answered. Huntress Sentinel-1. So hopefully that makes sense there. Huntress and S1 are great tools. I like them. There's plenty of debates in the forums about what the best tool is. I don't have a published white paper that will prove. I think people are looking for more research like me to write a thesis on it. But Tom, you haven't tried every tool in the world. How can you have landed on one? And it's because some people get caught up in analysis paralysis. And yes, that is a problem some people certainly have. I need to stop noises for a minute. Where's my do not disturb button? There it is. Turn on. All right. Now my phone will quit making noise. Distractions. Business question. Last few prospects have tried to sell MSP service have either ghosted me or jerking around for months. Any advice for actually landing MSP client? No, that's the sales process for you. Have more leads. That's really, people do that. I'm finally here's some inside information. I laughed at a booking that I finally got. I want to say the booking is tomorrow, and they engaged with us in August of 2021. They reached out to us for consulting, and now it took until they're finally spent money with us and are ready to start, do the consulting project. And that just finally came into play. Like I said, I think I seen it come in today, and I seen the ticket number. I'm like, why does that ticket pop up again? Oh, wow. That ticket's from August of last year. And here we are, finally getting around to solving the problem. That's just normal. I'm a very decisive person when it comes to a lot of things. So I don't need to be part of your drip marketing campaign where you got to call me every other month bugging me about something. I'm not a big fan of that. But it turns out by doing that, by constantly re-engaging with these people, following up with them, that's how we get leads, and that's how we land clients, is that same thing. Calling them again. Hey, what you doing? Did you remember that quote I sent you in August? That is how you'll eventually land these clients. That's just the nature of people. And it's, of course, different than the nature of technical people often. So it causes a greater level of aggravation for technical people going, if you wanted the service, why did you just make a decision? I know, it's life. Use Windows Defender for home users. I recommend Windows Defender for home users. What is secure? I already said that, Ryan. I already answered that question. What's the best expansion plan for Esxi? Techs or sales? Yes. It's both. It's not easy. If you don't have a sales pipeline, you got to build one. There's no getting around that. If you don't have a pipeline to bring in clients, and if you can't service the things you sold, you will fail. There's plenty of, I've seen some that are really heavy in sales and they couldn't support it. And we've picked them up we've picked up the pieces from those MSPs that were, and they even said, man, the guy could talk. The guy came in, promised us the world, and failed at every turn to actually service the account. Other people are really good at servicing the account, but can't bring in leads. You have to have both. It's not a either or. You have to figure out what you're missing the most of, actually. Our sales pipeline is our owner having beers that run a community. Staying connected to community is a big factor that not every technical person thinks about, but yes, there is a relevance to it. I'm still a member of the local chamber of commerce. I am going to an in-person event called IT and the D in about an hour. So I'm telling you where I'm going to be. Like I'm going to be with people, talking to technical people. It's less of a lead generation directly for it, but I still meet people, and the more people you know in the technical industry, the more adjacent you are to that is very helpful in sometimes finding leads. I'm probably going to have a beer too. So there's beer involved in this. The government department I work for recently switched from Symantec to vendor endpoint. I will tell you, Defender has gotten really good. All jokes aside, man, it used to be the free crappy antivirus that Microsoft did. They put some time into it to make it a substantially better product. Matter of fact, it is hung up a few times on me trying to get certain things deployed. Even when I did my Huntress demo with managed endpoint detection on there with the Microsoft one, for sure, it was Microsoft was picking up, and even the tools. I was using some Atomic Red Team tools to do the demo. Yeah, Microsoft's like, no, you're not using those tools. We even see the nuances of the tools you use. So yeah, it's it's definitely come a long ways from where it was. It's one of those things. It's not the joke it used to be. And this is actually one of the cool things of Huntress, where Huntress is adding on that ability to manage. I highlight that in my Huntress video, the most recent one I posted. Go check it out. I talk about exactly how that works and how it can manage policy settings to make it a little bit easier. You know, excuse me, got the hiccups now. I used to use F-Secure forever ago, maybe around 2001 or 2002. I thought F-Secure was pretty cool because they integrated into Linux, and I used to be a mail server admin, and F-Secure had a product that I believe it was the F-Secure product I used to use on that. F-Secure used to have the coolest like DOS one, and before that, that's where I found out them. Sophos and F-Secure, I believe, were the two that supported Linux back then. I don't even know what their support is now for it, but back in the day, they were pretty good. I'm pretty sure it was F-Secure. I know F-Secure was the one that had the really cool DOS prompt. They used to have it was like one of my favorite tools, like back in 90s, something like that, late 90s. And I first got started, the early days of you just kicked off scans for things. It was so primitive compared to what we do now. Long before the words of, heuristics was big for a little while. Kaspersky. Yeah. Yep. Okay, so it was definitely in the Windows 3 one day, so it probably was F-Secure. I really think about that. I think you just ran it through the command F-secure, and you could put some commands prompts after it. It's just so strange thinking of how primitive all this was back then. We prefer our to talk to us even when we don't use their services. At the moment, we say bye to unresponsive companies who don't respond. I use Defender with Malwarebytes anti-malware. Recommend Defender to customers. Yeah, Defender's, like I said, pretty good. S1. Sentinel-1's a nice product. I have a review of that as well. We like the threat hunting you can do in it, the extensive. We just had to catch something the other day. We did all the mitigations. No big deal. Really minor something. It was just another day. Then we also had S1 have a false positive because it decided it didn't like something that Dell had updated. I believe absolutely Kaspersky is probably on the no-go list for a lot of people. I know there's a lot of controversy around it right now, but if you're based in Russia, you're gonna get the controversy is gonna follow you. So I don't know, do I think Kaspersky is willfully doing things versus leveraging? When you're working inside of Russia, it's going to be sketchy. It's just going to be a sketchy problem for you. So I don't know. I don't know the solution on that. I'm not using it. Had you fear Dell software is probably malware. Yeah, it's garbage. It was better to uninstall whatever it was that Dell had on there. It was some tool that was across the fleet. We're not even sure why it flagged it because it was not a new tool, but something, I don't know. It wasn't malicious, but false positives do happen. They're not frequent. They're not like they're sucking up part of our day. There's like maybe one a week, maybe. I don't know. It's not much. Ooh, that's probably a good point too. I mean, yeah, they're going to be a side effect. Any problems that Kaspersky has is going to be a real side effect with all the Russian sanctions. So yeah. Oh yes, the Norton crypto mining. When I seen that, I laughed. I said, well, of course. Actually, I think my thing was like, wait a minute, what was it doing before? Because Norton was notoriously using up your CPU cycles for something. What you mean it wasn't crypto mining? I just assumed that's always what it did. It's sad to think it was just wasting CPU cycles instead of crypto mining. Oh yes, I was a big combo fix user. I loved combo fix, man. That was awesome for a long time. Would you consider for DNS filtering on virtual servers? What would you consider? Whatever DNS filtering you want to use. I don't understand the question. Combo fix is awesome for sure. It has been a no-go list for the UK government for a number of years. Our Barclays banking keys used to supply it to customers. When the UK stopped from being used, they stopped giving it to customers. Huh, interesting. Oh, did they remove the Wi-Fi AI? I didn't know they got rid of it. Gonna look because I'm curious. Is it gone? I think it's just part of their optimization now. I think that's all this is yeah, I'm in mine. I think it's just part of the daily optimization. I don't think it's called Wi-Fi AI anymore. At least I don't see it. Yeah, I don't see, you're right. I don't see it where it used to be, but my guess is it's just part of the network optimization now, unless I'm wrong. I don't know if someone knows, post. Oh yeah, I had posted about the StorageCraft data loss. That's a mess. I feel bad for them. I mean, someone made a big mistake. Someone made a big mistake there, and I posted on LinkedIn, and there was comments on Reddit about it. But yeah, I tweeted about it. But StorageCraft definitely. Oops, we have misplaced everything, all of the things. Check under Insights. They moved VLAN management recently for some reason. It's under Insights. Maybe client devices, traffic. No, I don't see it under Insights. I don't know. So post in my forums if someone wants to dive deeper into that. So, okay, so that is in the classic UI. All right. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why they're calling it AI. I think it's because that makes people happy. There's at least a subset of people that are always like, oh, I need AI things. all the time. I need my Wi-Fi, but I'd rather buy that Wi-Fi AI over there because it has AI. It's artificially intelligenting my Wi-Fi, right? No, it just looks to see if there's overlapping scan channels. It scans and says channels overlapping. No, move on. It's Wi-Fi is just an if-then statement with a lot more ifs and thens. Yes. So it's one of those buzzwords. What was I ranting about last time? I don't try to rant too much, but I was talking about zero trust. It's a zero trust AI Wi-Fi system. Let's build the buzzwords together. Yes, AI is the marketing department. We need an AI blockchain optimized NFT. I mean, come on. Can you put the AI on the Wi-Fi? Sure. I was going to title this and is Get Your Head Out of the Cloud. I was having a good discussion about companies that are moving away from the cloud. They don't talk about this publicly, but this is think about the consulting I do, and you can probably think about the alignment companies have going, hey, this bill came from AWS, and we were looking at it and said, we could probably build a data center, right? Yes, you probably could. I think Wendell has mentioned this as well in some of his videos, is you don't realize just the CPU power in, reference back to me mentioning tech supply direct. You can buy a lot of CPU power. You can go to 45 drives and buy a massive amount of storage. If you take compute plus storage, there's your data center, especially if you have a high demand for storage. Storage is really expensive in the cloud. And some people are going, well, it's not that expensive to run this in-house and manage it. I'm like, no, it's not quite like your $60,000 a month AWS bill that you're paying. Turns out you can do some of this in-house and manage it. And it's cheaper over time, even with product lifecycle changes and with warranties and with the staff, because by the way, they have staff. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I should get in the data center side of the business too. I always thought that might be fun. What do I think of cheap Microchip 10G switches for home labs? Other than I like the Switch OS because I think it's relatively easy to use. I don't care for their router OS because I think it's a little confusing. But I think hardware wise, they seem pretty solid. I've done a review of some of the small 10 gig switches and I like them. They're great. 60,000 AWS bills exactly what we pay a month. We pay every month. Yes. And yeah, that's the thing. I don't know, man. That's just how it is. Do you think storage appliances get replaced by vSAN similar? No. I had a great conversation. I'm going to have the people from 45 Drives on here that we're going to start with quit making things so complicated. You don't need vSAN. You don't need Ceph. And by the way, 45 Drives are Ceph experts. And me and he does the Tech Tuesdays. He's one of their guys on their YouTube channel. We had a great conversation about this. You don't need to overcomplicate everything. Sometimes you just need storage. And I did that petabyte storage server and people are like, Tom, I can't believe you didn't use Ceph for this. And I'm like, why would I make this more complicated for the client? And the client is an IT team. We're doing this in coordination with an internal IT team. They don't want it complicated either. There's times when you don't want these other things that add complexity to your business. So no, I don't think they're going away and we're all just going to be using vSANs or Ceph clusters or whatever is in there. There's times to use it. Absolutely. It's just not all the time. The drives are the most expensive part of the storage most of the time. Yes, until you put it in the cloud, and then it's real expensive. So yeah, but I don't. Let's see. Got to run. Thanks for the answers. Take care. Awesome. What do I think of Nutanix? I have no opinion. I don't use it. So, forget what Nutanix makes. Why do I know their name? Oh, some cloud scaling. It's multi-cloud adoption, your infrastructure. What are they using on the back end? I don't know. We don't use Nutanix, so Strange New Worlds. I don't know if I watched a trailer or not. I probably did when it first came out. Yeah, I like the other more open solutions. I'm, a big fan of, obviously XCP-ng. People don't realize how big it scales or how big some of the companies are that are using it, but it's very, very used in the enterprise space. So that's definitely the different software out there, I should say. There's a lot of people trying to reinvent it to make it easier, but you can do a lot, even when you start talking about some of the other ones. What's the one that Wendell talks about a lot? There's a couple of them that Wendell's really big on too, that also does some data center scaling stuff. Wendell from Level 1 Techs. He just did a recent discussion about it. It was a good talk. But it really comes down to what is it that you're trying to do. You got to start with what you're trying to do before you talk about the tools, because it's the analogy I've given many times is, hey, I have a Dodge truck, and someone can go on a rant of how it doesn't quite have the towing capacity of a Freightliner freight truck. And I'm like, sure doesn't, but why would I want a Freightliner truck? I'm not hauling 53,000 pounds in a trailer, just not my use case. So it's one of those things is, what are you trying to accomplish first? Then you start thinking about the tooling that you're going to build around it. You're going to build a website. Cool. You're going to build a social media platform that needs to scale the size of Facebook. All right. Now you have to think about a completely different set of tools for those same seemingly similar things. They just updated the secure boot systems in there. I'm not really familiar with the TPMs inside of XCP-ng though. I know there's some stuff you can do now with the secure boot. I don't know all about the TPMs. I haven't really dove into that topic because it hasn't come up very often. Most of the workloads that our clients are running, majority of them, with the exception of small businesses that use it for, your one single Windows server hosting, but the majority of the use cases that come up for XCP-ng are almost always Linux workloads, people running a bunch of Linux servers. So a lot of the consulting we do is getting their XCP-ng server set up. Often TrueNAS is going to be their target for storage, sometimes Synology, and then we're doing the consulting and they build the workloads on it. We just make sure they have a platform by which to build on. So that hopefully makes sense. I say hopefully. Well, I'm going to wind this down in a few minutes. So I'll give 12 more minutes of questions. I don't have any new hot sauce recommendations because I haven't bought any new hot sauce. I've been using the old hot sauces a lot. So if you wanted a single wireless access point behind pfSense router appliance, what non-UniFi would you use? I don't know. Maybe I always go with the UniFi because they're easy, easy to manage. The TP-Link one seemed okay if you're looking for something budget friendly. I've tested some of the Aruba equipment, and I have a friend, his MSP uses all Aruba equipment, and they're really happy with it. There's nothing about it that makes me. Matter of fact, we've done some install work for them. We did the cabling, and they installed all their Aruba equipment, and it all seemed to work fine. So I don't really have any feelings about Aruba one way or another. What hot sauce have you been using the most? I've been eating a lot of eggs in the morning, which I usually don't do. And for whatever reason, you can call me out on this. I like Tabasco on eggs. It's the most basic hot sauce, but Tabasco plus eggs always is just like this, the way it should taste to me. Like that combination, not others. Steve O's hot sauce for your butt. I've talked about that one before. I really like that one too. I wish more applications would be compatible with Dr. Linux. It depends where workloads you're working in, because many applications are Linux based. But I mean, if you're talking about QuickBooks and small business apps, yeah, small business QuickBooks, or occasionally Sage. Those are two hugely popular ones. And then all the line of business applications for small business, like, I've brought before, like the carpeting company we have, well, a few of them, and they all run the same software that all is Windows based. So yeah, some of the line of business applications are Windows based for small businesses, but by the way, we had issues with a multi-WAN on 27100s using the copper switch ports. Turns out that you actually have to use the expansion Intel card they sell. Huh. Ah, yes. I love that interview with Dan Barrera. He's awesome. Oh yeah, Marie Sharp Smoking Marie. I do love that sauce. That one's really good. I don't use it all the time, but I really like it. Have you done any work with Meraki Go? I have not touched Meraki Go. Aruba is an HP company, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. Best pizza place that goes, they got hot honey out there? I don't know. No hot honey, no. Cheese toast and, yes. I feel the same about QuickBooks. Not a great product. Tabasco on chicken and waffles is definitely good. Yeah, QuickBooks is always user issues. It's never just working. Have you done a lot of work in automation with Terraform? Nope, I don't use Terraform. We're not really a Terraform place. I don't have anything against it. It's just not what we are doing. I need to back up my backups of critical data, back up to the cloud, or buy an NAS. What do you recommend? Back up my backups. I mean, you have to have geographically separate ones. And if you don't have two places to store it, the cloud can be a good place to store your backups to have that geographic separation. Ooh, Philly cheesesteak, jalapeno cheesesteak. Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely Philly cheesesteak does sound good. Now I got to think about food. Food. And they'll probably have food at the event I'm going to. We'll find out. All right. Well, I got to wind down to get going. Yeah, Facebook makes my eye twitch, but yeah, that's QuickBooks is definitely QuickBooks, QuickBooks maybe you're twitching a little more. There's no doubt. It's definitely it is a lot of support. So is Sage to some extent. Sage can be kind of quirky at times, but definitely by far QuickBooks. So do you have a tutorial on how to restore Linux servers from config? Or if not, any recommendation videos for Guardians? Yes, Jay talks about how to use Jay from Learn Linux TV. Learn Linux TV, the YouTube channel, has deployment videos on how to do that. So hopefully that makes sense. I don't have anything like that, but he's got full. He does it with Ansible. So he has Ansible scripts that do that. Advice for moving from help desk support to Linux admin. Learn Linux admin. Find a job doing it. There's always people who's hiring, and you can probably find a job with a being a junior admin. It is, the hiring is a big mess, and I know people who own businesses who deal with people who constantly lie to them about their skills that are trying to get jobs, and they get exhausted dealing with them. And I know people who have really good skills that have trouble getting their foot in the door at these places because they're flooded with people dealing with it. The hiring and vetting process is difficult in IT. That's the best way to describe it. Yeah, it's an aggravation at a high level that it's not fun to deal with at all. Why do people like Proxbox over ESXi? Pretty much the answer is going to be open source and free. Those are the ESXi. I think they have some tier they offer for home users, but you take something like Proxbox, and I'm a bigger fan of XCPNG, but the same answer applies. People like that large expandability you get with all the cool features without having to pay the licensing fees that ESXi charges. So hopefully that makes sense. But nonetheless, I'm going to wind it down here. Thank you all for joining. Smash that like button. Actually, I can't switch to that screen. Oh, yeah, I can. I can share. How do I get it there? Do this. And then do this. Hit that. We got 55 likes. Let's punch up the like buttons a little bit before we wind this down. Yeah, GPU pass-through is definitely a thing. ZFS is another feature. Yeah, that's it. ZFS is a great feature for Proxbox. So, and ZFS is also supported inside of XCPNG. So I'm just going to be fair because, my preference is XCPNG, but I don't hate Proxbox. Just because I like one product and don't use the other doesn't mean I don't think people should use it. I think if you're good at Proxbox and you're happy with it, awesome. Use it. It's nothing. Jay uses it, by the way. And Jay, I'm good friends with Jay from Learn Linux TV, and he's a Proxbox user. And I'm also friends with Craft Computing, who's also a Proxbox user. So hopefully all that makes sense. All right. Thank you very much. And everyone take care. Look at all those likes. Try and get it to 100. We're almost there. Well, maybe it'll happen in post. Thank you. At least we got 92. I very appreciate all 92 of you who clicked on that. So thank you.